with this tool, I'll go under competitor's site, circle that their price points, say, hey, I want reporting if that changes one way or the other. Heck yeah, I'd be all over that.
This is Local SEO Tactics, where each week we go through tips and tricks to help your website and get you found online. This week we're going to talk about some cool apps for change monitoring. These are very useful for if your website is down, maybe if your website got hacked, heaven forbid, or some kind of malicious takeover, or if you have errors like plugins failing and changing your content, or YouTube videos getting taken down, or things like that. Super useful, pretty inexpensive for what they do. And we're also going to talk about how you can use these to spy on your competitors, or maybe monitor Amazon or other e-commerce sites for price matching, price watching. So super cool, super useful, and we use this stuff every day. Hopefully it helps you out. Hey guys, Bob and Jesse here. We wanted to talk again this week about Review Lead. If you've been listening to the show for a little bit, you've heard us talk about this pretty much every episode. We're going to keep promoting it because it's just super important. And if you haven't taken advantage of this yet, you really need to check this out. Intrix.com/review150. For all of our listeners, we give a pretty steep discount. If you go to that URL at least and kind of enter through that portal. If you sign up for the annual plan, it's actually even cheaper. It's $120. You get 20% off if you commit annually. Yep. I wanted to highlight one really cool feature about this. A lot of people have been asking us, so what's the big deal? So it's some software that just has people leave reviews. One key part on it is like the reminder system of it. So if you get a new customer, if they provide you their email address or their mobile phone number, you send them a request to leave feedback through that email or through that phone number. So on both of them, it basically the same basic message comes across, just saying, hey, and you can customize this, by the way, too. But I'm kind of paraphrasing. Hey, we'd really appreciate it if you could give us some feedback. Helps our business know if we're on the right track. Click here to give us feedback. Then they hit a page that's basically thumbs up or thumbs down. If it's thumbs up, it pushes them through and says, thanks for the feedback. Would you like to tell more people about this? Click here to leave us a review on Google, Facebook, Yelp, or whatever you want to integrate. You can anywhere you can leave reviews, you can have that show up right in their face, and they can pick where they want to leave the reviews. Or, if you just want to push them to Google, you can have that be the only option that they see. Right. But at any rate, back to kind of my main point here, I wanted to highlight is that first message that gets sent to them saying, hey, would you love to give us some feedback? Maybe they just say, nope, into the trash it goes, right? Or if it's text message, nope, they just delete it or ignore it. If they don't take action on that and they don't follow up in 3 days, and you can, again, configure this however you want. In 3 days, it's going to ask again. And a slightly different message. You don't want to do the exact same message. You want to maybe change it up. Like, hey, we shot you a message a few days ago. We'd really appreciate it if you could take 20 seconds and just give us some real quick feedback. Let us know if we're doing just a simple thumbs up, thumbs down, click here. Same thing. They skip that, ignore it, delete it, whatever. Day 5, day 7, whatever you want to do, and you can kind of load this up with 1, 2, 3, 5, whatever you want. You can kind of hound them. So it's going to be your judgment call on what's too aggressive, what's not. We recommend doing at least 3 and doing like day 1, day 3, day 7. And that's part of what makes us more effective. It's not just a one chance deal. It's not just hey, on the back of the receipt, go to this website, as they're leaving the store or leaving your counter. This kind of engages them down the road, and you might catch them, when they do have a good time, or they'll save that email and kind of set it aside for tomorrow instead of throwing that receipt away or throwing that flyer away or things like that. So that's just one of the powerful features, and that's how this gets more reviews from your customers than just some kind of manual process. It reminds them, and you stay in front of them. So
yeah, one of the stories, if I can just share this, is there's a customer that got a negative review, okay? And it wasn't horrible. It was just something they really didn't want to say to your face.
Sure.
And it was enough for this person to make the change that needed to happen. And sometimes there's that, you know what I mean? This is unspoken stuff that you need to change.
Yeah.
And people aren't comfortable telling it to your face. Yep. And that's what's great about this product. They can tell you that.
Yep.
You can make the change if it's necessary, and then going forward, things get better.
Yeah, that's a great point too. Like if somebody clicks, the example I gave, they click the thumbs up. If they click a thumbs down, they're prompted with a form just to give you that feedback. Yeah. So absolutely, sometimes people don't want to berate you in front of everybody else, or even mention it, or maybe they brood on it for a while. Because hey, any feedback is good feedback. Now, sometimes crazy gets in the door, and that feedback can be a little too off the wall.
Yep.
But if you can still read between those lines and figure out, what went wrong there, because even if you dismiss that as that person was just bat crazy, you know what I mean?
Right.
Hey, you know what? That person's probably going to tell somebody, how bad it sucked. So
yeah, you got to weigh all that and just determine. It's easy for our ego to say, well, they're crazy, but you really got to take a step back and say, if nothing else, run it by your wife or your spouse.
Right.
They'll tell you.
Yeah, they'll set you straight.
Right.
So no, great story. Excellent point. Again, there's tons of features on this. We don't want to do a half hour on it, but we're just trying to kind of share little nuggets and answer some questions we get people asking that are related to this. So check it out, intrix.com/review150. If you go to that review 150 URL, you're going to be able to take advantage of that special discounted price. Check it out, and I think you're going to be happy with it. All right, let's dive right into this week's episode. Hey everyone, welcome back to Local SEO Tactics. Jesse Dolan with Bob Brennan,
Howdy.
As always. And this week we're going to be talking about some pretty cool tools that are out there to help you kind of know what's happening with your website. A lot of times we'll, publish our website, maybe make some updates, and then we're done with it until we need to make some changes again. Meanwhile, customers and the public is out there bouncing off our website all the time, and really that's your first exposure, to a lot of people. So sometimes what happens, and if anybody's out there managing your own website and have been for a while, sometimes mistakes happen, right? Things go haywire on your website. Pages get corrupted, or, things get broken for whatever reason. And here you go, 2 weeks later, after you did an update, you come to your website and you're like, wait a second, that doesn't look right, or that information is missing, or there's a broken image or something else. Yeah. And you're wondering, how did that happen? When did that happen? And oh my God, how long has this been like this, and who's been seeing this? We're going to talk about some tools that are out there. Some are free, and some are, if they are paid, they're really inexpensive to help you be aware of these things. So we're going to talk about uptime monitoring and change monitoring for your website. So the first thing, which is one of our favorites, it's called Uptime Robot. Yeah, uptimerobot.com. Super, super useful. It can do a couple different functions, but the main thing that we use it for is literally just monitoring your uptime. So we run WordPress. It's kind of our primary, recommendation and what we use for all of our websites. Sometimes you have a plugin that updates automatically, right? Or maybe you push out an update, or somebody on your team you've delegated it to pushes out an update. And sometimes it can have some unintended consequences. Or maybe you shot something out there, you wrote a blog post or an article, or you got picked up in the media, something went viral, and you get a ton of traffic onto your website. And you're sitting there, oh, this is great, all this exposure. Well, you might not know that your website crashed because it couldn't handle, the traffic and didn't have the resources. Something like this uptimerobot.com would automatically tell you, hey, your website's down, right? Or again, if it's like a WordPress update or a plugin update, updated overnight automatically, you had no idea that actually crashed your website, or maybe a certain page on it. You can configure this thing to look at your home page or any particular page you want, and it's going to tell you when it's down. It'll also tell you when it's back up, right? So maybe if you're updating your database, once a week, maybe if your website goes down, let's say from midnight to 2 a.m, okay, maybe that wasn't a huge deal. It's part of some scheduled maintenance, kind of disregard that message. But something happens in the middle of the day between your 9 to 5 and your website's down for 2 hours, that stings. Check it out. We have, I should say too, we don't make any affiliate money off any of these. We have no horse in the race. These are tools that we use and that we recommend to people. So if you use these things, great. Otherwise, I'm sure like uptimerobot.com, if you just Google alternatives to Uptime Robot or like Uptime Robot, you're going to find some other options too. We're just going to be sharing as examples the ones that we use ourselves and that we recommend. So just to kind of make that clear for everybody. But definitely check that thing out. It's a super cool tool and very, very useful. You kind of set it up once and then really you just forget about it. And it can kind of give you the confidence, that your website's going to be up, kind of that security to not have to worry about it. Another super cool one is Change Tower. Changetower.com. There's another one that's very similar, and we use both of these. Visualping.io. And for all three of these, I'll put links in the show notes so you guys can kind of jump to them and see. But these get a little bit more sophisticated than Uptime Robot. These can monitor all sorts of changes. And Bob and I will kind of share some examples with you. But if you can just think about on a website, what changes, you can monitor that. So I'm going to go through a few examples. Let's say if your website was hacked. We've had the unfortunate experience, not anything I'd say within the last 5 years, but back in the day a little bit, we had some unfortunate situations with lapses in security where we had some websites get hacked and stuff changing on the home pages, things like that. That's horrible. Yeah. You want to know about that as soon as you can.
Yeah.
A product like this would instantly alert you to a change on your homepage. So what these do is basically take a snapshot. So you'd set it up. You set up your account and you say, here's the page I want to monitor. And it basically takes a snapshot there. And then you can set the intervals. If it's every 5 minutes, every 5 hours, every day, every 5 days, whatever you want, kind of set that interval. And some of these have free programs for, monitoring one website, once a day. Some of them might cost $9 or $29 a month. Kind of depends on really the frequency of the changes that you want to be monitoring. A lot of them will have unlimited websites and unlimited change monitoring, but it's just, again, that how often it checks it, because that's their resources that they're doing.
Sure.
But basically it'll take a before and after snapshot, and then it'll send you an email and say, hey, we noticed some differences. And usually these kinds of services will actually show you what the difference is. They won't, type you out a message. It'll kind of give you, 2 images side by side, and it'll kind of highlight the area on the page that changed. Now, in some cases that's not bad. Let's say if it's, for whatever reason, you wanted to monitor your Facebook page. Well, if you post a new post, guess what? Your Facebook page changed, right?
Right.
And actually there, if you kind of caught what I did, I'm not talking about just your website, your .com. It's going to be your Facebook page, your Twitter page. If you're using Yelp, like your Yelp listing, you can literally monitor anything that you want out there. Another very useful reason for doing this is missing content. Again, if you're talking about WordPress, if you're using plugins, you have widgets in the sidebar, things embedded on your page. Sometimes these connect to other things. Let's say maybe, like, for example, going back to your Facebook, maybe you're pulling in your most recent Facebook posts and having them on your homepage or in the sidebar. If that plugin or that coding that enabled it, however you set that up, you malfunctioned, there's a bug in it, it's going to leave like a blank element or a broken element on your page. You're going to want to be alerted on that. That looks bad, or that information, isn't communicated. So in that case, it wasn't bad or malicious like a hacker, but it was just kind of a bug in your code, right? Or a plugin. Same thing though. You're going to want to know about that and correct that as soon as possible. So that's something that's super useful for. Let's say you have maybe some YouTube videos, that you've linked to. Somebody on your team doesn't know that video is important. They took that video down. Now you got this big blank spot on your page. I mean, just if you can think about any off-page elements that you're bringing into your website, it's going to be super useful to make sure those are always up, especially if they're critical. Like if it's your main sales presentation, or a how-to video or things like that. The more important your page is, I would say the more important you're going to want some monitoring on this. I wouldn't set up monitoring on every single page of my website, like think about it on your homepage, if it's the whole homepage or certain elements. If you're going to use this, definitely be setting it up on your homepage. But then if you have main landing pages, or if maybe you're doing some, paid Google ads or Facebook ads, things like that, and you're directing traffic to certain landing pages, I'd put some monitoring up on those too, just to make sure if you're spending money to push people to a page, there's no reason that page shouldn't be monitored to make sure it's exactly how you wanted it. And there's nothing wrong, because you're throwing good money after bad.
So is this, does this catch, so it catches viruses if they make a change to your site, right? Is that the idea?
Yeah, viruses, or the actual people themselves making the changes. Yeah, it's just any change, whether it was a good or a bad change, quite frankly.
And then how about this might be out of your league, but malicious like bots or bots that are crawling other than like the Google bot? It's not going to pick that up.
Yeah, if it makes a change, right?
Okay.
So actually, you bring up a great point. This can monitor the code as well. So not just, and this is going to vary based on the service. I'm talking broadly, in the sense of change monitoring. Some of them are just visual, like visual ping, as the name implies. Probably most useful for like actually comparing the actual image of the page, right? And the elements that changed. Something like Change Tower, you can get in and actually have it looking at the code that's in your website, right? So maybe something malicious happened where they injected some kind of script or code into your website. didn't change the actual appearance of the page.
Okay.
But maybe
the code has changed.
Yeah, maybe they're, I don't know, I'm just using stupid examples for being malicious here, but maybe they're scraping content, right? Or maybe they're using your website to push something out or whatever it is. You can monitor the actual code on your website. This actually brings up kind of another point. In your case, it's kind of malicious. Well, if somebody did it on accident too, like if maybe one of your developers or somebody in your team was in there, and as it goes with web coding, deleting a character or adding a character in your code at the wrong spot can kind of wreak havoc on stuff. Let's take like your Google Analytics, for example. It's a piece of script that you paste into your website to then track your visitors and report through Google Analytics. If somebody made a change to your Google Analytics code, whether it be on purpose again or on accident, you wouldn't be able to track your visitors anymore. You would never know that by looking at your website. Right. That's completely in the background. However, it's pretty important for you to know if you're using Google Analytics or any other analytic tracking tool. So you can use tools like this to monitor the script, the coding, and all that background information in your website as well. Whether it's malicious in intent or completely accidental to break something else. Again, just like with your homepage, the more critical those things are for you or not, which should be your deciding factor on if you're going to monitor them for changes or not. Another very useful way to use this is not just on your website, not just on your Facebook page or your social profiles, but going off of your properties. Bob and I were just talking before we're cutting this, like Amazon, right? Maybe I'm looking for, a new camera or a new keyboard or a new laptop or whatever it is, but I'm like, oh, that's pretty high price. I'm going to wait for that price to come down. You can actually go to that sales page on Amazon.com and you can essentially draw a box around that price and set an alert for when that changes. Now, it doesn't mean a change price down, right? Maybe just the price went up.
Change in general.
Yeah, because it's not going to read the actual text and tell you that the price changed by $8. What you're doing is saying on this page, if something in this square that I'm drawing changes, alert me. And then you're going to go and check it out and see what it changed to. But things like that, if you start thinking about, where can I use these kinds of things? Where is it important? Really starts to open up the possibilities for you if you yourself are scouring different websites to gather information, whether it be for price shopping, competitive research, intelligence, whatever it is. Think about the manual time you're spending doing these things. You can use these kinds of tools for relatively inexpensive compared to your labor,
right?
To really automate these processes for you. So pretty amazing stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I like this product, Jess, because I'm always thinking of the evil side of it. No,
you got to watch the video for that little
exactly little Austin Powers gesture there. So no, it's interesting because if you're in a price sensitive service business, perhaps, you can with this tool, go on your competitor's site, circle their price points, say, hey, I want reporting if that changes one way or the other. I'd be all over that.
Absolutely. Think about the time that would save from having to call around or shop around and do that kind of stuff. And not only the time, but as soon as they make that change, you're aware that they made that change, right?
Right.
How many times we see like gas stations across the street from each other have those price wars? You know what I mean? That's instant. They're seeing that. Same thing here. You don't even have to pay attention to what your competitors are doing. You just, boom, I got an email. Oh, the price changed on that, on that widget. Super, super important to know. So, other areas you can use that too, talking about your competitors, is let's say like if they're going after a new keyword, right? If maybe you monitor your competitor's homepage. Yeah. Just what are they doing now? It doesn't even have to be price driven.
Oh, that's a great point.
Just, they're offering some new product or service that you're not, right? Or maybe they just got some big new utility or tool, that maybe you just didn't let people know. I mean, who knows whatever the examples are, but it doesn't have to just be price driven to monitor your competitors as well. So, kind of in that same vein, talking about competitors, we talked about you can, monitor the script and the coding on the page. And when I say that too, if everybody doesn't know, like you go to a web page and if you right click on it and you click view source or view source code, depending on what browser you're using, that you can see, all the coding of that website, not just what it visually looks like, but the actual coding. That's the stuff you can track. And that's how this does it. There's no like secret back door where it hacks into somebody's website.
Right.
It basically says, let me look at the coding behind that, which anybody can see on any web page right now. You can right click on it, view source code, check it out for yourself. So on that, whether maybe your competitor hooked into some new background service or is using, they weren't using Google Analytics, but now they are. I can't think of any more examples on stuff you'd want to see in there, but just the applications for this are pretty much limitless and up to your imagination. If it's out there on a web page, you can monitor it for changes.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's super useful. Couple other notes I have for just ideas where you could use this: brand mentions. Like maybe you have like maybe it's local, maybe like a local newspaper website or something more regional or national. But like brand mentions, right? So if you or your competitors are mentioned in this publication, you want to know about that for whether it's good or bad. Quite frankly, if you're the Eyewitness News team, if you pop up on their webpage, maybe that's not a good thing.
Right.
Press releases, we were talking in a previous episode about paying attention to the Google My Business, updates page. Set up a change monitor on this. Then you don't have to go check it yourself. Just, they have a new update that they pushed out.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I got alerted to a change on their blog. There's a new article that's out that I need to know about. Maybe some of your vendors, right? Or, if it's safety driven things, whatever it is, if you think about needing to be alerted about something being published online, an article, a blog post, some kind of snippet, again, you can set up this change monitor. And most of these, it's not going to be, you can only monitor one site or 3 sites or 12 sites. It's the frequency of those monitoring, right? So if you don't need to know every single day about every news article that pops, if you want to check that once a week or once a month, that's the kind of budget that you're working with, is the frequency of the changes, that it's looking for. So you can really get creative and stretch your budget without paying a lot of money and really save yourself a lot of time.
So what are the prices on these products range from?
Yeah, a lot of these will have, free trials. I'm just looking at changemonitor.com here. You can monitor 3 URLs, check as often as every 12 hours, and it'll keep data for 3 months. That's free on their end. And I'm using them just kind of as a snapshot. I mean, you're going to get slight up or down as you compare different vendors here, but these guys are pretty middle of the road. Their pro version is $39 a month, right? 100 URLs, check every 5 minutes, and they retain the data for 7 years. I mean, that's pretty high end.
Yeah.
If you think about that frequency and everything else, and they have plans kind of in the middle, ranging from $0 to $39 a month. So, you think about the applications we're talking about here, even on that high end plan for $39 a month, you know what I mean? You're getting a lot of data. You can save a lot of time, and just the speed of notification too, to what your competitors are doing, what's out there in the news, what changes should you be aware of. Pretty good stuff.
I would just use it on Craigslist.
Yeah.
I buy a lot of stuff off of Craigslist.
Sure.
And I'm pretty cheap. So it's like,
yep.
I like a deal. And if I see something, I just circle it. And if I'm patient and the price drops, then I'd buy it.
That's a great example on where to use it. Absolutely. Craigslist, eBay, Amazon. I mean, just wherever there's price in play on something for purchasing. I mean, again, with your competitors, just that competitive research. And then your own website for your own protection and security too. There's so many ways to use this.
Pretty interesting.
And then also too, I should mention kind of the final thing that I have here is social media. We talked about, like, for yourself. Again, flip that script over to your competitors. What are they posting on social media? Sometimes, like, you follow somebody on, let's say, Facebook or Twitter. Unless you go in there and set it to be alerted first to what they're doing.
Yeah.
You might not catch them in your feed. We don't get exposed 100% to everybody that we're following. I think we all know that nowadays. Or your competitors, maybe you want to follow their review page, right? To see how many reviews they're getting and just kind of be aware. Anything you flip through, go through their Twitter, go through their Facebook. If it's visible online, you can set up this monitor for it. The whole page, just part of the page, whatever it is. So yeah. If you're not using any tools like this right now, at least explore them. I would say for sure something like that uptime monitor, just for the basic, is my website up or not, is an invaluable tool, extremely inexpensive for what it does, just for you to know that your website is constantly running. And then if you're not using one, I would set up like a free account with this change monitor, visual ping or something like that for your homepage changes. If you change your homepage daily, then maybe look at certain elements on your page that you don't change. But you're just going to want to know about that. I wouldn't worry as much on the malicious end of things. Most people, especially if you're using WordPress, the security out there is way better than it was years ago.
Right.
So many holes have been closed in that cat and mouse game. I wouldn't say that's the primary reason, but more about things breaking, right? We use so many different plugins or integrations nowadays to connect all these things, all these APIs. Yeah. An update from a third-party plugin vendor, can cause some problems on your website.
Did that recently happen with Yoast or whatever? Or is it something a little different?
Not so much a change to like an on-page crash, but there was a background, and we're going to dig into that in a future episode. It was more about how they were indexing your website essentially and pushing out those results to Google.
Okay.
Which you could set up a change monitor, to view your XML sitemap actually, just kind of extrapolating that example there, to see what changes were made, and catch some of that. So yeah, so that's where I would use it again, not from that malicious endpoint and not from that malicious end of the spectrum, but more from just making sure that I know when something changes on my homepage or my landing page or wherever I'm driving paid traffic to, because man, that's the first impression, and you're usually paying good money to direct that paid traffic,
right? Or
to get your homepage ranking in Google or through your Google My Business page, whatever it is, and pushing people to your homepage is always the most important page on your website. You can do this for free. Set it up, like we just said, through Change Tower. At least you can set it up and be alerted, absolutely free. Even if you don't take advantage of all those other things, definitely jump on board with those. And you've got nothing to lose. All you're going to do is be alerted if something bad happens or something uncontrolled by you happens to your website, and you can quickly take action on it. So
perfect.
Yeah, super, super useful tools. Again, want to reiterate, we don't make any money off these. We're not endorsing them. We're not getting paid by them or getting affiliate commission. These are tools we use, and it's more about the concept and the technology for what these do for you. Be taking advantage of something like this.
I'm making money off this.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. You didn't know that, Dale?
Craigslist?
No, Craigslist, eBay, whatever. I'm making money.
Okay, so we're making money in a sideways way, not directly from Change Tower or these guys. So check it out. Check out the show notes. We'll link to all these to make it real easy for you, and hopefully it can help you out. So if you like what we're doing, we talk about this every week. We're going to read a review here, and we'd love to get reviews from all you folks out there. If you're finding value in the show, if it's helping you out, we'd love to hear it. If you're not comfortable leaving a full-on review, with your name and the feedback out there, at least give us a star rating. That helps us out as well, directly in the iTunes searching to get more exposure to people, which is obviously what we want, and to just show us that it matters to you. We want to know if the time we're invested into this is helping you out, and just that it's bringing good value. So intrix.com/iTunes. Let us know what you think. It's going to hook you up right into iTunes and give you kind of a highway on how to get there and leave that review. And it's important to us. We're going to read a review here this week that we got from Elizabeth Jennings. Elizabeth says, "Wow, thanks so much for the tips and tricks and insights. As someone that believes in SEO and invests in it for my business, it's good to have someone reveal what actually works and what doesn't, as there are so many companies that I get bombarded by on a regular basis that is trying to sell me their SEO packages, and I never really know if they can help with the biz for the price that they are asking for. Highly recommended." Thanks for the 5-star review, Elizabeth, and thanks for the good recommendations. I mean, I think we all get bombarded by those people pushing SEO or saying that they can manage your GMB for you or whatever it is. A bunch of scams, really. If they're not bringing you good value, or ask them, check out, their blog, check out their resources. What are they saying? It should be up to date kind of stuff that you're hearing like on our show. And if you're not finding they're bringing you that value, definitely don't engage with them. Most of these places just kind of want to, take your stuff over. And anybody out there, if you want advice, on your website, on what you can do beyond what we're providing in this show,
right.
We're here for that too. Drop us a line, go to intrix.com/show. If you want us to answer some different questions, on the show, if you want us to review some information, this is where we get a lot of our ideas and answer a lot of the questions is from that kind of feedback. So check it out, intrix.com/show. And if you haven't yet, again, we'd love to hear from you on iTunes. Let us know what you think, intrix.com/iTunes. And if you guys keep leaving the reviews, we're going to keep reading them. See you next week.
That's good.